So as much as I've liked Notre Dame's independence and, because it lets them go and play in California every year against either USC or Stanford, and then it lets them go to the East Coast, and they've played games in Yankee Stadium and Fenway Park, and they've played games at Soldier Field, and they've played games in Washington, D.C. You get the point. Notre Dame's schedule allows them to do that. They consistently schedule USC, Stanford, other brand names. They've had obviously tons of Big Ten opponents over the years. They've had, Navy's a game that, even though on the football field it might not be the most exciting game for people outside of Notre Dame and Navy fans, it's an important game for a variety of reasons. And they constantly add guys or add teams like Ohio State. They add teams like Clemson. They have Cincinnati on there, who was obviously very good last year. They schedule brand name opponents, and on occasion, one or two of those brand names that they schedule aren't going to be very good, and Notre Dame's schedule is just going to look, but Notre Dame's not hiding from anybody. And so the independence has allowed them to not do that. It's allowed them to, schedule some really good schools, some really good teams, the ability to, travel from coast to coast and do all of that. And these conference realignment things isn't going to change that. So if Notre Dame were to stay independent, I guess the question then becomes, are these super conferences only going to ever play within these super conferences, or can Notre Dame just cherry pick the best out of the Big Ten and the best out of the SEC and schedule a couple of other teams and go from there? Possibly. However, okay, as much as I have loved Notre Dame independence, I've also thought, joining a conference, whether it's the ACC, whether it's the Big Ten, whatever, I've never thought that joining into a conference would be a terrible, terrible thing to do. And now that Notre Dame rivals such as, USC, potentially at some point Stanford, Michigan, and then other teams like Ohio State, other teams like Purdue that Notre Dame has a decent history with, Michigan State. Now that all of these teams are together in the Big Ten, why not join the Big Ten? People are going to scream tradition. People are going to scream, Notre Dame's never done this. People are going to scream a lot of things. But in my opinion, okay, if Notre Dame joins the Big Ten, does that change the fact that Notre Dame is one of the premier Catholic Midwestern universities? And not even just Midwestern universities or Catholic. Is that going to change the fact that Notre Dame is a premier university in the country? Absolutely not. Okay. I don't think that joining the Big Ten is selling out. I don't think the Big Ten is, that any of these things is Notre Dame selling its soul to the devil to be able to participate in something else. I don't think that's it at all. I think Notre Dame stands for what they stand for. It doesn't matter if they have, a Big Ten logo on their field or not.